Good afternoon. It's a wonderful, wonderful President's Day. Getting ready to go into the Moses Technology Building at Bergen Community College in Paramus. We're here for a Black History program, and I have the honor and distinct privilege of sitting on a panel with a wonderful discussion that will surround Blacks in Suburbia. We're on our way in, and we hope that you join us. When we're talking about civil rights, we're not just talking about rights for African Americans.
Are you able to hear me okay? Good. On behalf of President G. Jeremiah Lyon, I'd like to welcome you today to a Black History program that is entitled Blacks in Suburbia, the connection of race, class, and the middle landscape.
Arnold Brown, historian, lecturer, entrepreneur, and business consultant. And Estina Baker, president of the Bergen County NAACP. First question I'd like to ask the panel is, what were the reasons for the massive movement of African Americans to the suburbs that occurred since the 1960s?
With Brown v. Board, even though Brown v. Board happened in 1954, most places around the country didn't really put those desegregation rules into place where you could have a better education for your children. I am proud to say that here in Bergen County, the township of Teaneck in 1957 was one of the first school systems in the country to do that. So I think that everything, starting with what Dr. Brown said, with what my other colleagues said, in addition to the passage of civil rights laws, made a difference. Just for life, particularly in the suburbs, even though African Americans moved to the suburbs, it was still very segregated. I mean, let's not make any mistake about that. I grew up in an organization called Jack and Jill, where I had the privilege of growing up with Dr. Brown's and being very close with his family and his children, because for those of us in certain areas that moved to the suburbs, there were not necessarily welcoming arms in terms of children being able to join the Girl Scouts and other organizations. So yes, the real estate was integrated, but in terms of social activities, I dare say in 2011, you go to the churches. I mean, I go to an all African American church. I'm not for or against, but that is my reality. And that was very much the same case. The real estate was integrated, but the social setting and standards, not necessarily so. In the 20th century, that's not something that's common knowledge. When Du Bois talked about the talented 10th, depending upon what type of family you came from, if you were part of that so-called talented 10th that had the opportunity to go to school, you should be responsible for the other 90%. And that was going on back and forth, different morals, different time and place. Everybody is not innocent. However, there are an inordinate amount of people that might have committed the exact same crime as their Caucasian counterpart in society, and the sentencing is outrageous. Oftentimes in educational systems, it begins in kindergarten. If you have a kindergarten teacher who has never been exposed to any African American children, and their only exposure, as you stated at the beginning of this, is something from television, well, the expectations are incredibly low. The expectations are so low that you could sit on the side of a curb and dangle your legs off, and there are no expectations for that child to achieve. And the attitude is not that the teacher woke up in the morning and said, well, I just don't like them, I don't think so, but in her mind, and it begins in kindergarten. When you get stopped by the police, it's not fair and equitable. And I'll give you an example also that targets males, because unfortunately males are perpetrators or find themselves involved in more situations that can bring harm to them. In Bergen County, for example, we now, as of today, have no African American judges in Superior Court. Doesn't mean that every judge in court should be African American. It means that we need to bring different ideas and different backgrounds and different stories so that you will be able to judge fairly and you will be able to mete out sentences. In addition, it comes down to economics. Building prisons is very, very, very big money. For those who are now investing, there are some prison companies that are on the New York Stock Exchange, and it's big money. But I say, I'd rather spend $22,000 giving somebody a first-class education than $52,000 to incarcerate. The African American community, the church, is very important. The African American church, albeit, or what you might have heard in the media, because again, they will play up out of 500,000 ministers, there may be 10 that are getting more money than they should, but that's what you'll hear about. But the African American church has been the bedrock even when it was illegal to worship in the clearing on the plantations. And that has not changed. Some have become more cosmopolitan, some have become bigger, but that still remains the bedrock of our community. Also, as my colleague mentioned earlier, social organizations such as fraternal and sororities, in addition to professional organizations such as the Links, and those types of things, all have mentoring programs now. Everybody has mentoring program for the kids in the suburbs who are doing okay to make sure that they're all right. So in terms of structure, it has expanded, gotten more sophisticated, but from our early days, from on plantations, I would say the church is number one, and then some of the service organization groups go right alongside that, and that's very much the structured, even transcending socioeconomic status.
As African Americans become more affluent, do they need the services of those organizations anymore, or is that a thing of the past?
I feel that the Urban League and the NAACP, those organizations are relevant, will continue to be relevant because there is a disparity. I think the disparity is closing. I think we're having more open discussions. Our children, just like I went to school with different people than my parents did, and my kids continued that, they grew up in the suburbs as well. But there is no question, there is a disparity in justice, in civil rights, and it goes for women as well. It goes for any minority group. If anybody wants to pick on someone, that's going to happen. But are they relevant? Are they necessary? Absolutely. Really see, can we capture what Dr. King was talking about in his I Have a Dream speech? Can we be bold enough and wise enough to actually judge somebody from the content of their character? And I hope the answer is yes.
Absolutely. Tremendous.
Good afternoon. Well, we're inside the panel discussion room, and it's my distinct pleasure to be here with Arnold Brown, somebody that I deeply admire, that I consider a mentor, and a past president of the Bergen County branch of the NAACP. And we're still working together. It's intergenerational what we're doing, and more so than anything else, we need you to join with us.